So welcome. We're talking about supply chain of where is it going and what's the changes. And I just want to run through it. So this is the clicker. Click. No, does it work?
What will the new day bring? New markets, new businesses, new challenges. What do you need to remain successful in the future?
Everything is driven by the supply chain today, and one of the best things that ever happened, it's, I suppose, difficult to say something good came out of COVID, but something did come good out of COVID from a supply chain and logistics perspective. The US president talks about supply chains. The president, people in the world talk about supply chains. Previously, supply chains was something that was in South African context, if you spoke about supply chain, it was government procurement and all the corruption around it. It wasn't the real sense of what is a supply chain. And I think today the general public start to understand the impact of supply chain on them. What's going to influence supply chain is digitalization, Industry 4.0, and IoT. Today we have data that's going to change the way we plan and develop supply chains. The fundamental of the supply chain is, if you think about it, you walk into a supermarket, you go onto the shelf, you find a punnet of grapes, you find products on the shelf. You don't actually think of the whole process of how that got to the shelf. The same thing today, we click on a website and along comes a driver to deliver it to your door. You don't think about the whole process of how that worked to actually get that to you. And the drive to get that faster, in South Africa, we've got 60/60 and other products that try to bring it in 1 hour. In America, Amazon are actually working on products that will bring things in 15 minutes and even less to the customer, because we've become a very consumer-driven society and we demand instant gratification. But what does the customer want? So the fundamental in any business is availability. If you can't get it, you won't buy it. Then you want range, and we've become consumers of range. If you walk into a supermarket in America, I can tell you from that corner of that wall to that wall would just be the peanut butter rack with the choices that you have. Okay, it's crazy. And what does that do to the supply chain, to our waste, to our infrastructure and so on? But we're driven by the consumer. You then get store-specific ranging, and if you think about in apparel, all the different fashion and what you want and how that changes and how short-lived it is and what the impact of it. Then, of course, you go down, if you go down the LSM, obviously price becomes a key factor and everyone's driven by price, and now in inflationary times, we are really, really concentrating on what the best we can do for price. So supply chain has a major influence in how we can actually optimize costs, because from the time you take it from the supplier to the time a retailer puts it on the shelf is their supply chain. And if they can do that better, faster, cheaper, they can influence their pricing or their margins, etc. And then obviously down the supply chain from manufacturing process, if they can get that more efficient. And I suppose if the consumer drives home in an electric car and don't use petrol, they save some money on that consumer purchase. Okay. But really what we're looking at is the consumerism, the lifestyle of our customers, urbanization, age, mobility, and that all influences how we work. But the supply chain doesn't change. We go through raw materials, supplier, manufacturing, distribution, all the way through to the retailer. And I think the biggest thing that probably will change is maybe one day we'll get 3D printers and it'll go straight from raw materials into our house and our 3D printer will make it. But then suddenly there's going to be a supply chain of how to get the raw materials that the 3D printer needs to actually generate that product. We all watched Star Trek and they had those machines that generate the food or whatever it was. So we may be there one day. There's new technologies happening. You've got shuttle type systems that move in XY conditions. If you look at the left, there's lots of conveyor and hard automation. On the right is the shuttles. But you're starting to see more flexibility with robotics. So you're starting to see machines that are free path and free roaming. And those move and are starting to replace people or add to what people do in the process. So you don't need to invest heavily in very heavy automation. It's not a fact that in the old days it was either your manual facility or fully automated, you're now getting a hybrid where you have elements of your operation that can be automated. And that's starting to become very exciting. And the technology around these robots that move around, they have, some of the guys have now got artificial intelligence and machine learning, and they can actually do predictive learning, watch a person walking down a path. Now, a robot would have actually come along, had a sensor, pick up you there, stop, wait for you to go. The new stuff predicts that he can actually go faster than you and go around you and just carries on and ignores you. So then we're starting to see, for example, what Amazon have done, and the robots pick up and bring the cart to the picker. So instead of pickers walking to stock, they bring the cart to the picker, and while the guy's picking, they say, okay, why don't you do the packing and the checking at the same time? So instead of 3 processes, they make it 1, and they've made it more efficient through that process. So there's a big move, and that's very suitable, obviously, for e-commerce, but it could actually be used even in normal distribution for certain elements. We're starting to see some really clever technologies. This is a robot that will drive around the warehouse, bring a bin, climb up the racking, and then drive it into storage by itself. It's a French system. It's really exciting. This is another system. This is called the auto store. It works on a on a burrowing system, and it stacks the bins one on top of the other. It's about 6 meters high, and it's becoming very common overseas. We don't have one in South Africa yet, but we're working on 2 projects potentially. And there is, interestingly, one in the middle of Africa in Ghana at the bank. So technology in interesting places. And this is where things are going, where robots are actually replacing people and doing picking. And I think Floris will talk about the challenges and strategies.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
I'll have the fun conversation. Okay, so Gary's shared with you some of the trends we see happening. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that we faced. Back in 2008, we started with load shedding. Although for most of us that was a pain in logistics, it created all sorts of hassles with traffic lights being out, cell phone networks going down. If you're trying to do proof of delivery with a handheld device linked to a GSM card, that couldn't be done. So there's all sorts of workarounds that we had to do. And of late, we had the coronavirus, all the lockdowns that we had to deal with. Then in last year, we saw the riots in KZN. Absolute and complete disruption of that supply chain happened. There were threats or worries about people going without food, water, fuel. And then who would have predicted Russia invading Ukraine at the beginning of the year? That's resulted in massive escalations in oil price, difficult to get materials. We have suppliers whose sole supply of metals are coming from Russia or the Ukraine, so they're scrambling to get alternative sources now. And in the end, we have a bit of load shedding again, disrupting our lives. Sorry, I meant to introduce that video, but the damn thing just keeps insisting on jumping up. So there you saw a little bit of how we use the technology Gary's been speaking about, and the theater of logistics and the warehouse and all the different ways in which we handle products. The next is also, I'm going to cut that video a bit short, with obviously the advent of the lockdown and people needing to get groceries to their houses. It's resulted in obviously the boom in e-commerce, which we all know about. And that's resulted in a lot of improvements in robotic picking, which this particular video talks about the way Ocado does it. They went from being a sole online retailer to now being a technology partner, selling their tech into the market internationally.
I wrote a story about Ocado. Ocado is a UK online grocer. It's only an online grocer. It does not have any physical stores. They were one of the first grocers in the world to have an online-only operation where the orders are fulfilled from central warehouses. In the last 5 years, they've been selling themselves to other grocers as a kind of technology partner, a way to help those other grocers around the world adopt the same kind of technology that Ocado has, which includes these extremely automated warehouses, and they sell this kind of complete technology package to other grocers around the world.
So what you saw there is again, uses of new technology, robotics, learning to visualize product, to grab fruit, to handle things gently, to place into individual bags in the correct order for the correct customer. But we think there's more to the future of supply chain and logistics than just robots and technology, hard, mechanized technology.
For retailers, data is both their biggest asset and biggest challenge. It's the key to understanding and engaging their consumers. It lets them efficiently and effectively plan their product assortment mix at the hyper-local level. At the store level, data is at the core of effective store optimization. And when it comes to supply chain management, data means visibility and flexibility at a global level. Retailers competing on low margins have known for decades that data is a powerful tool, and big data takes it and supercharges it for the modern multi-channel retail environment. Retailers who embrace big data throughout their organization can unlock hidden value in many other functions as well. For instance, risk management presents a huge opportunity for retailers to use their existing data to improve the bottom line. What can big data tell us about customers? Today's consumers know more about you than ever before, and you know more about them. Without the insights that big data analytics provide, you risk missing opportunities to engage them with the kinds of products and offers they're searching for, or maybe didn't even know they wanted. Big data lets retailers target consumers with personalized suggestions, upsell and cross-sell based on prior behavior and predictive models. This can include acquisition pattern analysis, collaborative filtering based on associations between products, customer-specific scorecards, real-time store sales modeling, and can even determine optimal pricing for individual consumers. That ability to predict what consumers will purchase and for how much is incredibly useful. Reliable software solutions for the retail industry.
So we've been using big data to drive consumerism, to drive our customers to our products. But we believe that we can do more with data. And this is just, again, I'll shorten the video a little bit, how our everyday lives have changed from watching dedicated channels to remembering that your show's on at 8 o'clock to having the ability to at least record the show and then find out that they've changed the time of the show by half an hour and you missed the ending or you missed the kickoff. We now watch television on demand, but here again, we're using big data to drive our consumption of that program.
%80 of what people play on Netflix actually comes from the recommendation algorithm. So it's a really big lever for Netflix. It's a really important part of what we do.
Netflix now serves hundreds of countries, lots of different cultures, lots of different languages. How to make sure that our recommendation algorithms are serving in the best possible way that has led to lots of innovation in the recommendation space.
So you may think of recommendation algorithms.
So they're using your previous history, your demographics, who you are, where you are, what you're doing, to tell you what you will like to from their library to watch and drive your consumption of that. And the same thing is happening in iTunes with our music that we listen. If you like a song, you get more of the same. If you don't like a song, they'll skip it. They'll track your number of times you skip your songs, etc., etc. What we haven't done to a great extent is use that kind of technology in our warehouses. A center like the new Pick n Pay center in Joburg will generate at least 500,000 lines of data every single day. We use it to bring product in, to move product throughout the warehouse. But we have the ability, the technology exists out there to use that information and to drive off at recommendations and improving operations and changing and reacting to the customer needs. And that's what we see as the real future in our logistics and supply chain. And also the ability to cohesively link from raw material to customer one data stream, so we understand not only where a product is, but where it's going to be in the next hour or the next day, and to actively predict behavior before it's happened. But a conversation on the future cannot be had without the environment and the role that the supply chain can play in that environment. We need to be more cognizant of what we're doing to enhance and secure the future for those that come after us. We can't just drive to fulfill customer needs blindly like we did in the past. We can't chase that rand. Absolutely, we have to, because we all need to survive, but we need to be able to do more. Traditionally, we focused on raw material to customer through all the touch points as our main driving focus. But in the future, and now, in fact now, we need to focus on how do we get that product back to our customer? How do we add value to that item that we throw away, that milk carton, the Coke bottle, the can of deodorant, everything that we use? We need to be able to find a way to reuse that and to move it through our infrastructure back towards the factories again. One of the earlier speakers spoke about the company called Loop, and it's a bit of a long video, but if you can pay attention to the first 30 seconds of what he says, it's extremely powerful and it will change the way you see the goods that you throw in the dustbin every day.
Everything you see will one day belong to the garbage industry. Everything. And 99% of it within a year. And not only will it be property of the garbage industry, you will have paid them to take it. And for how immense that is, that it will be the owner of everything without a single exception, it's really uninspired what happens with it. Most of it ends up in a pile or gets burned. 2% gets recycled. I mean, that is really uninspiring. So you have this immense thing with no innovation, which is a blue sky opportunity to innovate like crazy and rethink everything. So TerraCycle began 16 years ago as a company dedicated to eliminating the idea of waste. And the way we do that is to recycle what's not recyclable, from dirty diapers to cigarette butts, flexible food packaging to toothbrushes, and then to integrate recycled material back into objects. So TerraCycle has been very dedicated to this idea of making disposability more circular. We're not challenging disposability, but we're making things that are disposable more recyclable and more recycled. And this led to Loop, because our mission is to eliminate the idea of waste. And we realized that recycling is solving the symptom of waste, but not the root cause of waste. And so the question became, what is the root cause of waste? And where we landed was using something once. You know, we vilify plastic today, but I don't think plastic is necessarily evil. I don't think metal is evil. I think using them once is the wrong.
Plastic is an amazing material. It has a lot of great properties, but the fact that it's such a cheap material, especially in its single-use format, has really led to the garbage crisis. That's, you know, the number one primary thing found in landfills. It's mucking up our waterways and all of our systems. It's become like a thing that's crippling our world in a lot of ways.
How do we solve for the negatives of disposability while maintaining the positives? The breakthrough for Loop was one simple question. Do you really want to own disposable packaging when it's empty?
So Loop is a really cool interactive platform where customers can sign up. They get products in reusable, durable containers. They can either sign up for each product as a subscription or a one-time only purchase. Then you get your durable, reusable shipping tote sent to you with all your products inside. Once their containers are empty, they go back in the durable, reusable shipping tote. It comes back to us. We send it off to a cleaning facility to have it sanitized. Then those empty containers go back to the brand partners to be refilled with new products. Then it completes the loop or the cycle.
In Loop, instead of the consumer owning the package, the consumer borrows the package, and the package is always property of the manufacturer. And magic happens when that happens, because then the package becomes an asset to the Unilever, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Nestle's of the world. And then they're financially motivated, forget sustainability, financially motivated to make them long-lasting and durable. And durable makes your packaging reusable, but also beautifully designed with really luxury materials, and even potentially brings new features to the package, like keeping things fresh longer, cooled longer, warm longer, all these things you couldn't do in disposable. It allows these brands to innovate in ways they could never innovate before. And that has unlocked this entire new ecosystem, with almost every major consumer product company now partnered with Loop, creating durable alternatives to their currently disposable offerings. The beauty is, I don't have to have you believe in my products. It's already the world's best products. I don't have to ask you to shop at a new store. It's already likely the stores you're shopping at. All I'm really asking you is, would you like that in disposable or durable?
I love the prospects of what he's talking about, to stop throwing containers away, to reuse it. I mean, I still remember as a child where we used to have the tokens, and every morning you'll get a fresh set of milk, and the old milk bottles will go away, and it gets reused all the time. It's the same concept they're trying to do. Now, there's still loads of challenges around there, and we can be as clever. We are very clever in the way we move product through warehouses. We need to be just as clever to move that product back, to help this kind of initiative grow and get speed. And as a consumer also, you know, all of us are buying organic, avoiding meat that's used, antibiotics injected into them, growth hormones. We need to start doing the same with our packaging. We can't continue to every morning open a milk carton and tomorrow morning throw it in the dustbin. That's not the future that I would like to see our kids grow up into. And our last thought is that for everything that we do, if our drive is to be as efficient as possible, that is a natural way to ensure that we are good and green for the environment. Reducing the resources that we use is the fastest way of assisting our environment in everything that we do. That's it. Thank you. We've got a few minutes left.
Can I just add, as a closing, to what Floris said? When we started Relog, you'll notice our color is green. One of the fundamentals in driving the start of Relog that we saw that we could try build sustainable supply chains. So that was one of our key differences.